The Democrats focusing on the wrong priorities. They've dug themselves into a hole by defending illegal alien Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who was deported by the Trump administration. Here's President Trump listing what we know about the man. Maryland Senator Van Hollen traveled all the way to El Salvador to do a wellness check on and has now got 4 Democrat members of Congress there as well. This is lengthy, but it's worth the listen.
Is an illegal alien MS-13 gang member and foreign terrorist. This comes out of the State Department and very legitimate sources. I mean, I assume I'm just giving you what they handed to me, but this was supposed to be certified stuff. In 2019, Garcia was issued a deportation order. 2 separate judges affirmed Garcia was a member of MS-13, which is a gang that may be even worse than Tren de Aragua, and maybe worse. They kill people with knives because it's more painful. Very famous for the knifing and killing of 2 young 16-year-old girls walking to school one day, and they sliced them up into little pieces and killed them. That's MS-13. And 2 separate judges affirmed Garcia was a member of MS-13. When Garcia was originally arrested, he was wearing a sweatshirt with rolls of money pouring out, an MS-13 gang symbol that he was driving with 2 other known violent MS-13 gang members, 2 of the most violent members that we know of in the MS-13 gang of thugs. In 2022, Garcia was stopped by the Tennessee Highway Patrol and was found to be transporting 7 people from Texas to Maryland, and he had no driver's license. He was driving violently. In 2020 and 2021, Garcia's wife filed for a protective order from him and said he was violent and abusive and really scary, including allegations that he punched and scratched her on the eye, left her bleeding after throwing her laptop on the floor at her, ripped her shirt, and ripped off her shorts. He then grabbed her arm, leaving very severe marks. Garcia's wife also wrote in court, "At this point, I am afraid to be close to him. I just don't want to be close. I have multiple photos and videos how violent he can be and all of the bruises that he's left on me." She just couldn't get anywhere near him. This is the man that the Democrats are wanting us to fly back from El Salvador to be a happily ensconced member of the USA family.
Yeah. Now, how does the American left keep finding itself propping up the worst possible people as martyrs? How do you keep ending up in this place, the wrong side of history? So much for women's rights, by the way. The Democrat Party will go to bat for a wife-beating illegal alien gangbanger while also fighting for a biological man's right to use the same locker room and bathroom as your daughter or granddaughter or wife. Abrego Garcia's wife has been crowdfunding support for her husband on GoFundMe, but notice that she censored the tattoos on his hands. Now, why is that? There's evidence to believe that the symbols tattooed on his hands stand for MS-13. It's not looking good for them, of course. She's also been facing an uphill battle trying to ignore the fact that she's filed a restraining order against her husband in the past. Listen to this.
You did take out a temporary order of protection against your husband in 2021. Were you in fear of your husband?
My husband is alive. That's all I can say.
Okay, then I'm not going to push on that, apparently.
Why not? Michael Strahan fancies himself a journalist, but apparently doesn't consider pushing for the truth as part of his job. It is, by the way. At least he asked the question, but it appears someone put a stop to that in his ear. You know, they'll do that sometimes. Oh, well, that's what people like Stephen Miller are for, to set the record straight over and over again. Since the media won't do it, Stephen Miller will. Listen.
Jimmy, stories I could tell you of children that were trafficked across the border and raped because of the policies of Joe Biden. There aren't enough volumes that could fit into a library to calculate the carnage that has been inflicted by the Democrat Party's policy of open borders. We can spend the rest of our lives trying to document those harms. Where does our whole country go to get repaid for all of the wealth, all of the prosperity and security that has been stolen from us by decades of uncontrolled illegal mass migration. Because we all deserve reparations for what has been stolen from us. It is a tragedy that defies our ability to even describe it.
Yeah, but instead of trying to make it up to the American people, Democrats continue down that same path, down that rat hole. People like Senator Chris Van Hollen in his trip to El Salvador, or Representatives Garcia and Frost. Their request to Oversight Committee for funds to do the same. They did it anyway, but Oversight Committee Chair James Comer said, no, we're not paying for that. We're not paying for that. Why would we? They don't want oversight of the Biden border crisis and the consequence of millions of illegals coming into the country. No, they want to seek to travel at the committee's expense to meet with foreign gang members. Request denied. Rightfully so. There are Americans still being held hostage by Hamas right now, but Democrats are rallying around the release of a gang member instead of those folks, if they're still alive. Maybe they should look into it. Pretty despicable, really.